Hello students, I am Professor Komal Kapoor and I take marketing and strategy papers with the MIB badge at IMS Ghaziabad University Courses campus. Over the years, we have tried to develop and include various interesting and novel subjects into our curriculum at IB, and design thinking is one of them. Design thinking is a subject which is based upon the core foundations of creativity and innovation. Based on the feedback that has been given to us through the industry mentors and organizations that come for the placements, we understood that the students today, in order to be more employable, to be more corporate ready, should understand the nitty-gritties of creativity and innovation, become better problem solvers that would help them in becoming effective managers for tomorrow. So, design thinking, my students, is not a subject, is not a process, are not just limited to the only steps in the particular subject as such, but it is more of a mindset. It is more of a culture. It is more of an overall horizon and view of looking at things. Today, this particular subject, now taken up in the MIB first semester, we will have an introduction class for this, where we'll try to understand what is design thinking, what it comprises of, and how, as a student, as a future manager, this can be imbibed in your working, in your problem solving, and in the various decisions that you will take for the organization tomorrow. I would like to start explaining the subject and the concept with a small case study. As you can see on the screen, that there is a particular tool or a particular equipment that you see which is called as Hippo Water Roller. Let me tell you the background story behind it. In India, we have varied states and cities which are following in various topographical conditions, whether extreme cold or extreme weather conditions in the coastal regions, and also the various landslides and floods that we see in the other areas. So, a state which is a very big state in our country is Rajasthan. And Rajasthan has, being a dry state, has a problem of drinking water availability, where ladies of the house had to travel 5 kilometers, 10 kilometers a day just to get one, the container of drinking water, and maybe these trips could be twice or thrice in a particular day. So there were certain NGOs that were working with certain issues in various cities of Rajasthan, and they realized that there was a continuous flow of patients at the doctors in Rajasthan with back problem, spine problem, disc problem, and especially among ladies. So this NGO took up the responsibility to understand as to why this was a concern and how, as an NGO working towards women empowerment and health, could help them. And then they realized that in order to reduce their trips to only one a day or maybe twice a day, these ladies were carrying these empty containers to the drinking water wells and returning with 10 liters, 15 liters of drinking water every day. And this they continued for years together. And that is why, being a lady body, which is anyway weaker than the other counterpart, and plus the other responsibilities which come on their shoulders, they were facing these medical issues. So this NGO particularly undertook a design thinking process and created this Hippo water roller, which you can see is like the Syntex tank that we have on our the heads of our houses, which stores the water and gives us supply the entire day. And this was attached to a push barrel, where the lady did not have to carry the container on her shoulders or near her back and all. And it had a covering lid which stopped the water from flowing outside and also the dirt from coming in. And first of all, this was launched as a beta version in those particular areas, and gradually when the benefits were obtained, it was largely sold to all the ladies who were undertaking this activity on a regular basis at a very nominal price to them. The government also pitched in, various CSR foundations of big organizations pitched in, and then gradually over the years we have seen the problem has been reduced, and the ladies of that particular region are able to find better health of their backbone and their spine. So see, you can see here that even a small innovative thought as to how we can solve a particular problem, where we need to empathize with the person who's facing the problem, understand, brainstorm the possible solutions that can be there, and then gradually evaluating the alternatives to come down to a solution which is feasible, which is realistic, which is accurate, precise, and also is accessible to all, is the core foundation of design thinking. So today, the ladies in Rajasthan and many other states of the country where we have a problem of water has been solved, where it moves like a push barrel container or like a pram which we have for children, and many of the problems linked to the body have been solved for them forever. Now these days, all these things come in various sizes and various shapes with different kind of safety guards, and you can travel a long distance without actually giving any kind of trouble to your body. Moving on, let's understand what is the design thinking process that we were talking about. As you can see in the diagram, that the first stage in design thinking process is the empathizing stage. As we saw in the earlier example also, it was important to empathize, to understand, to be in the shoes of the person who's facing the problem in order to give them innovative solutions. So empathizing is the first step, because the products which the companies are making may not be desired by anyone until and unless it solves a problem of a particular customer segment, which may be the male gender or the women gender or maybe the children and even the organizations as a business consumer. So empathizing is the first stage where we develop a deep understanding of the customer, the pain point, the challenge, and then we move on to the second stage, which is the defining process. In defining, it is very clear to understand that how the organization defines the problem and how the consumer defines the problem can be completely different. And hence, we need to understand the customer journey mapping to analyze what the customer is thinking about the problem. We may think it's a pain for them, but maybe it is not really a problem for them. So it is very critical to define the problem from the customer's perspective, for the person who's facing the problem. Only then we'll be able to brainstorm and ideate the possible solutions. That is the third stage of the design thinking process. As it can be seen in the ideating stage, which is the idea generation stage and the brainstorming stage, we as marketers, we as management graduates, we will try to explore, innovate, think about all the possible solutions, whether feasible or not, to bring them down to the table so that the deliberations and consensus can be created on that. And then finally, the fourth stage, where a possible solution which everyone believes can solve the problem of the consumer, will move on to the prototyping stage. In very simple terms, prototype is the creation of a sample or a proto, where the product is created in a particular format to be tested on the consumers, because the consumer also have to evaluate what the product will look like when it will reach the commercial stage. And hence prototype is a sample where the final product is created in a particular format where the consumer can use and give their feedback, so that the next stage, which is testing, can take place. We all know in the new product development stages, before commercialization, testing and understanding commercial viability is very, very critical. And hence the last stage, which is the testing stage, where through a product innovation cycle, the products in their beta version will be given to the consumer. They will be using it, they will give their feedback, and the possible innovations and improvements will be made to that particular product which is about to be launched in the market. In order to help you understand each stage better, we can have a quick reading where empathize with people need is the first stage, collaborate with others across disciplines, skill set and perspectives to get a broader vision is the second stage, include every idea which is visible and evaluate which may not look feasible at that particular time, but it may come out to be a very innovative idea later on, repeat, iterate and test the solutions to perfect them, always with the human need at the center. My dear students, we always call design thinking process as a human-centric process, as a human-driven process. because any innovation, any new product would not be able to solve the problem of the consumer if the problem has not been understood from the customer's perspective. We may, as marketers, as manufacturers, keep on innovating, keep on researching, experimenting very new and novel ideas, but that may not really be very meaningful for the consumers. Moving on, an elaborate discussion has been done where understanding the user and the problems they face through conducting user interviews, creating empathy maps, and listening to the user stories is critical. In the second stage, like we discussed, organizing and analyzing the research information to produce a concise problem statement is highly critical because definition should take place from the consumer's perspective. Ideate, which is the brainstorm phase where everyone who's involved with the project should come out and possibly give their ideas before we move on to the prototype stage, which is the sampling stage, and then moving on to the testing stage. Towards the end of the session, I would like to leave you with these examples which have really changed the way we watch television, the way we manage our transportation, and also certain very unique ideas. Like, for example, in the first picture, you can see our remote of our television set used to be highly cumbersome, full of so many buttons and digits, which were never used. Generally, only 4 or 5 buttons are used across all our TV viewing. So when the OTT platforms came into picture like Amazon Prime, we realized that only 3 or 4 buttons in the entire remote is required, and that is all which is required for the consumer to watch the television and whatever content they want to see. So this is just an outcome of the design thinking, where a complex and a complicated remote has been converted into a very simple structure. Similarly, as you can see in that flyover dam, which has been built over a very complicated river, but with the use of engineering, use of design thinking principles to make it mobile, to make it usable by the people who want to travel from one place to the other with the use of right kind of material. This particular flyover or the project has been completed, which was never thought when our engineering was not that developed. In the last, I would also like to gain your attention to this particular baby seat. And as you can see, this baby seat is part of an aeroplane. So when new mothers who want to use the washroom while they are traveling through an aeroplane and they have to carry their small babies because babies are quite cranky and they would never want to go to any other family member, these are small baby seats that have been installed in the washrooms of aeroplanes so that the child can be seated in this and the mother can easily find comfortable position in the washroom as to whatever her needs are. So I'm just leaving you with this thought that design thinking not really has to be very, very innovative, completely out of this world, and very high on what we call as the technology perspective. But they have to be from the problems we are facing on day-to-day basis, which everyone is facing, and that problem can be solved for masses. I would like to conclude the session today, but leave you with this thought until we move on to the next session. Please explore around you. Please research and find out at least 5 organizations that have undertaken design thinking in a very meaningful manner and how they are applying it in their products and services. And next, how the consumer problems have been solved better now. I can give you few examples which you can search on. Number 1, there's an organization called 3M. Number 2, Airbnb. Number 3, Tesla. Number 4, Netflix. And number 5, IBM. So the task for you is you search upon these 5 organizations and try to understand their design thinking strategy so that you also understand the application based or analysis done in the form of products and services for this kind of subject. So we end this session today until we move on to the next session, and we'll meet you with these examples and the case studies which you are supposed to do on your own.